favor? Aye.
The New York Landmarks Preservation Commission decided unanimously that the 19th century building just blocks from Ground Zero does not rise to the level of landmark status.
It is a good but not exceptional example of its style and was designed by an unknown architect.
There was outrage from members of the public who believe the mosque plan for the site tarnishes the memory of the 9/11 victims killed by Islamic terrorists.
They tell me that they want to build bridges. They want to do this. Build bridges. You're hurting people. You're reliving this whole dark period.
The Commission's decision clears the way for tearing down the Palazzo-style building and the construction of a $100 million, 13-story Islamic Cultural Center in its place. The organizers of the project, the Cordova Initiative, and American Society for Muslim Advancement envision a Muslim Cultural Center that will have a 500-seat auditorium, conference rooms, a mosque, a theater, a restaurant, and a pool. Critics of the project have argued that the 1857 building deserved protection because part of the landing gear from one of the 9/11 planes crashed through its roof. Dispute over the Islamic Center has become a political slugfest.
This, to me, is such a wrong place to have a mosque such as this. Then you have the fact that it's going to cost $100 million, and they're refusing to say where the money is coming from.
Mayor Michael Bloomberg, who has not opposed the Islamic Center project, stuck to his conviction that one of the best ways to honor those lost in the 9/11 attacks is through tolerance.
We do not honor their lives by denying the very constitutional rights they died protecting. We honor their lives by defending those rights and the freedoms that the terrorists attacked.
All right, welcome back. And we've got a special guest in the studio that I've been telling you he was going to be here, and here he is. We have Rabbi Shmuley with us. He has a new book called Renewal.
A guide to the values-filled life, Kimberly, because we all need more values to live more wholesome lives.
I agree. I'm a big fan of yours, and you do a great job in your outreach to everybody, to all communities, which I think is so important.
You can elaborate on that for the next half an hour.
Yeah, for the next half an hour, exactly. Plenty of time for that. And Rob Boston is joining us. He's a senior policy analyst for Americans United for Separation of Church and State, joining us from D.C., and Ibrahim Hooper, Care Communications Director as well in D.C. Gentlemen, thank you all for being here with me this morning. This is obviously a controversial subject matter that we're going to take on, and we also have stories about it on foxnews.com and a poll that's actually going on in terms of what is your reaction to yesterday's decision by the New York City Landmarks Preservation Commission. Rabbi Shmuley, I'll begin with you and then give you gentlemen a chance to respond.
Well, Kimberly, nothing that we say on the air here with Rob, with Ibrahim, with myself, none of it really matters. These are all secondary opinions. The only thing that really matters are the families of the victims. Ground Zero is not some shrine to a terrorist attack on the United States. It is a cemetery. It's a place where 3,000 people's bodies were incinerated in a jet-fueled fire, and their bones were not recovered, their flesh was not recovered, and that's where they're buried. And it's the families that have to be consulted. And I'm astonished that the mayor of New York, or anyone else who's in favor of this mosque, has not told the organizers of Cordova House that they have to go and canvass all of the families to get their opinion. Having said that, and having said that my opinion is secondary, the only way this mosque should proceed is if it makes as its central focal point a museum about Islamic intolerance. You can't create a mosque or an Islamic cultural center 2 blocks from Ground Zero, ignoring the elephant in the room. The reason you're choosing that location is because that was the demonstration of Islamic intolerance that was witnessed by the whole world and it claimed 3,000 lives. So our Islamic brothers and sisters should come together and create a museum about those who have abused Islam to bring it into disrepute, and how they repudiate them in turn. It should be a museum. You can't just put up a 13-story building that has a swimming pool, that has a library, that has some auditorium, and not do something that hallows and commemorates the victims who died there. That would be highly insensitive, and it would undermine the whole purpose of the mosque.
All right, Robert,
first of all, we have to make something very clear. Not a mosque, not at Ground Zero. You can't even see Ground Zero from the site. And if we're going to make my community's religious rights dependent on the feelings of others, what if there are 9/11 family members who don't want any mosques in Manhattan? Would you then say there should be no mosques in Manhattan? Or what is the radius that is going to be Muslim-free from Ground Zero?
That's an extreme,
2 blocks, 10 blocks,
we said
1 mile away?
we said canvass the families. We said that you take a consensus. We're not saying that one family should have veto power.
So my religious rights should be dependent on the voting of other people.
This is not about rights. This is about sensitivity. This is not about rights. It's about sensitivity. We're not saying whether it can be built. We're saying if the whole purpose is to create a multicultural center whose purpose it is to bring people together, then do it in a way that brings people together.
So if the Muslim community in, say, Dearborn, Michigan, objected to Israeli policies targeting the Palestinians and said no synagogue should be allowed in Dearborn, you would agree with that? By the way, I wouldn't agree with that.
I am absolutely amazed that you're making these comparisons. Mr. Cooper, you probably are not aware of the fact that 3,000 Americans were not incinerated in Dearborn, Michigan.
Including Muslims.
You are trivializing what happened.
I am not trivializing anything. I'm making you stand on principle, not based on bigotry. And this is based on bigotry. I'll let my colleagues speak.
Sir, you are calling me a bigot, and that is highly offensive. I am in favor of this cultural center, but I am telling you that it must be done in a way that acknowledges what took place half a block from where it's being built.
And by the way, I object to your use of the term Islamic intolerance.
Mr. Hooper, give me 1 second. Rob, I want to get you in because what the rabbi is saying is he's not saying don't build it. He's saying please have some sensitivity and acknowledge what happened because that would be a respectful thing to do. I think it would be a healing thing to do, if I can paraphrase what you're saying. What's your response to that?
We need to step back a little bit and realize that this is an issue about one of our most basic core principles, religious freedom. That is one of the things that makes this country great. And in times when we are challenged, we don't trash that principle. We cling to it even tighter. And I think we need to sort of get some of the bigotry and rage and hatred out of this discussion and certainly get the demagogues like Newt Gingrich and so forth who are exploiting it for political purposes out of this discussion, return to our core values and say, we are best when we are challenged and we embrace our principles. And that means we allow this mosque because the people who are building it are not terrorists. They are not in Al-Qaeda. They are not in sympathy with these folks. When we say to the extreme Muslim world, we are so serious about religious liberty that we embrace every group that comes along and we allow them to express their freedom and build their facilities without harassment from the state. We repudiate the bigotry. That sends a stronger message than if we simply get down there and on the level of those who are hating and say, we're going to restrict people's rights because we don't like what they're saying.
Okay, but Rob,
that's the extremist view. We don't want that in this country.
Rabbi Shmuley isn't saying that. He's saying, how about having some sensitivity, showing some respect for the lives that were lost?
No, he's saying take a vote as to whether I and my community have religious and constitutional rights. I'm sorry. My rights are not subject to voting.
Ibrahim, wait, just a moment, please. Let me just use an analogy. If BP decided that in order to create greater multicultural understanding between them and the Louisiana and Alabama communities, decided to erect a giant edifice on a Louisiana beach about all the philanthropic work that BP does around the world and about all the clean energy that they're seeking to develop, but they omitted mention of the Deepwater Horizon and the 11 people who died there, I think that BP effort would be counterproductive. And what I'm saying
it might be counterproductive in a PR sense, but it would be their right to do it.
Sir, you are interrupting me.
Mr. Hooper, let him finish,
and I say the same thing. If the purpose of an Islamic cultural center, 2 short blocks from ground zero, is to create greater cohesion and greater communal understanding, and I support the building of this, it cannot be done without incorporating a museum and a great exhibit about the people who died, about those who perpetrated it, where the Islamic organizers repudiate what they did. If you do that, you can build it. This is America. You have the right to do it. But it will be counterproductive.
The very existence of the center with its programs and its bridge building and its reaching out will stand as a monument to that very principle.
The swimming pool The swimming pool will stand as a shrine to the 3,000 people that died?
No, there will be programs there. There will be education.
Will you mention the 3,000 people who died,
that is for the people building this facility to decide. It's not for you to decide.
How could you not mention the people who died?
It is not for you to decide. It is not for you to decide.
Talk about insensitivity.
Nobody has the right to come in and tell you what you can put in your religious houses of worship. Nobody has the right to tell you what you have to restrict.
We're talking about right and wrong. We're not talking about what their constitutional rights are. There's morality.
Yes, we are.
Let's you guys, we have to talk one at a time.